Welcome to the Brave Healing Podcast, everyone. I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we have a mission to change the world one brave word at a time around here. And today we're celebrating the birth of a new book, Find Your Voice, Save Your Life Too. This is a project from lead author Dianna Leeder, and I want to start by saying thank you to Dianna for her big-ass vision and mission for this book. She really wants to help women step up and share their stories and their voices. And in this instance, share them with the world in a much bigger way. And I want to say thank you to the women who are joining me today who did that so brilliantly. You guys are incredible, inspiring, powerful, and wise women. And I am so happy to have you here today. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So you guys, Lisa McCardle is the creator of Inner Wisdom Awakening, a system that supports you in bringing the cosmic of your awakening consciousness to the concrete of your daily living. Carol Park uses a blend of spiritual energy practices, including spiritual energy healing, Tai Chi, Qigong, and yoga to help you feel illuminated by your own inner wisdom, peace, and joy. She helps healers to become great healers. And Judithann Walz is a word seer, teacher, and healer using truth and wisdom to show others how to live their divine paths through interactive workshops and private sessions. And y'all listeners, you know, just a little bit further down in these show notes are these wonderful women's websites where you can take the next step in their world and find out everything about what they're doing. And it is amazing. You're going to want to do that. So let's start this party off with Lisa. Tell me about the beautiful chapter that you wrote.
Thank you for inviting me here, Laura, and for creating this opportunity for this book. I'm chapter number 15. It's called Lassoing the Light, and it's a journey of reclaiming our greatest gifts. And it's really, in many ways, my life's journey of being an intuitive, a seer from a very young age. And as early as 4 years old when I started seeing spirits in my room, and having that really shut down, having that not being nurtured, I would say, within my familial unit due to their own belief systems, and really closing a significant part of myself down. And as we know, when we close one part of ourselves down, we in turn close many parts of ourselves down. So it was really, the chapter talks about a huge part of the journey of awakening, of reclaiming my gifts, which in turn enabled me to be really my highest level of service here on the planet. And what I do in response to that is I support other women and other humans on the planet to reclaim those parts of their gifts so that we can really be fully sourced and fully in our presence and be here to do what it is we're here to do on this planet, especially during this time. So as the chapter goes on, it talks about a moment in time when I was in my 20s when everything came flooding back in, and I could do nothing other than do what Spirit was calling me to do, which was honor these gifts, hone these skills, move through them, allow for them, and in turn find my own voice, find my own purpose, shine my own light. And I only say that as a reflection so that we can all step into that power, because that is truly why we're here. And it's become my life's mission to own that and to shine that for others to do the same.
You know, that reclaiming thing, this is a big deal for people, and it's a lifelong journey kind of thing. I know that my reclaiming process was maybe a couple of decades long. You know, sometimes you wish it didn't have to last that long, but how did that roll in your journey?
Well, it's been a lifetime. I mean, it's been many decades, as you say. And I think it's important to know that in some ways things can happen in a flash, in a moment, yet the integration of it really truly takes a lifetime. And I'm not sure that we're all ever really complete in the reclaiming of who we are at soul level. I do believe it's a journey that continues onward if we're willing and brave and really becoming the warriors of the light that we're here to be. I think it's important to get some support, and that's what I did, was get support from people who had walked the path just a few steps ahead of me, who could enable me to know that I wasn't crazy. Because when we start to come back online and start to remember what we're really here to do, to be, to experience, to know, especially if it's been really squeezed out of us, I think it's important that we have a lot of support, and that we take as much time as is needed to really implement and integrate those processes along the way.
And lots of times that extra support is not coming from the inner circle that's been around you up until that point. Yeah, tell me more about that.
Yeah, it's not usually, I mean, it's usually the people that are closest to you. And in many ways, it's almost sad to say, but often, our family of origins and the people that are closest to us in some ways help to kind of the disappearing act, right, based on their own belief system. So we can't often go back to the source of where we disappeared to find our light. We have to go inside for that, and to source, and to creator, and to to sit with our spirit, to sit with our truth, and to, I believe it's really about a strong willingness to be completely expressed. And when we find people outside of our community, perhaps, or within our community, or that circle around the circle, who are living that example, I say that it's best that we go to people who are living in that full expression and ask them how they did it, and would you be willing to walk the course with me? Because we're really all here as one, and the more we help each other to rise into that, the more rapidly we really ascend this planet. And I believe that's why we're here as humans right now.
I love that piece that you just mentioned. Look for your examples, then reach out and be brave enough to ask that question. How'd you get here? Can I sit here and practice with you? Will you show me? We're all here to guide each other. I love it. And thank you. And thank all of you for stepping up to, not only say yes to this particular project, but then to just so brilliantly share the authentic story in a way that we could resonate with it. And you all are being courageous and authentic and raw and real about who you are and what you're here to do. And that's part of my mission, is to share those kinds of words. So thank you all for doing that. Carol, tell us about your amazing chapter.
Okay, well, it's lovely to be here, Laura. Thank you so much. Well, I'm chapter 3, and it's This Girl Is Heard. And really, in my chapter, I talk about some of the obstacles that I had along my journey of being heard and being able to express. And my expression, my ability to communicate was shut down from a very early age, particularly by my mother. And as I also mentioned in the chapter, my dad later told me that he just used to let her do her thing with me, even though he didn't necessarily agree with it. And I talk about some of the phrases that she used to say to me, like, don't be so silly, and little girls must be seen and not heard, and only speak when spoken to. And I just had to sit in a corner, and I wasn't allowed to breathe when there were people around. And if I did speak or even look, she used to give me this look that shut me down. And I spent a lot of my teenage life and adult life just pushing past this, but different things also manifested along the way of not being able to speak, learning to be a salesperson, learning about public speaking, learning to be a teacher. They were all phases in my journey of being able to express. And really, I understand on much deeper levels now that there was a lot of karma involved in that, because our karma brings us in and attracts the people around us from birth, from our parents, from people around us when we're born, to learn our lessons. And boy, have I been learning my lessons on this journey to be able to express and work through the karma, but then the programming that embeds itself in us as we're growing up. And our parents, our peers, teachers at school, as young adults, we still have this program, and it's so hard to push through the programming. And significantly, the programming with my mother, silencing me, really pushing through that and seeing her fear, what a fearful person she is. And that a lot of it was her projection onto me that I just took on. And now all of that is completely clear. I was with her yesterday, and it's just not that, it's completely gone. We just love, our souls love, and it's clear. And that's what true healing is. And that's really what this chapter of mine in this book is. It's an introduction to my work. And this is the work that I help other people to do, to clear through all this karma and programming and just be free to express and walk our path beautifully and clearly.
I remember several times in your chapter where you typed the look.
Yeah.
And it was like palpable. Yes, it was palpable to me. But like what I want people to understand is, you know, it wasn't just that she was looking at you, it was the energy she was. Yeah, tell me more about that.
It was an energy of her need to control me. That was what it was, her need to control. And she still does it. I mean, yesterday, she was showing me how she's controlling her garden. But she can't control me anymore, which I know she's not altogether happy about sometimes, but she accepts it at least. But it's the need to control. And that's her programming, that's in her karma. And I see that so clearly now, but it came in this dark energy from her. That was something that she could suppress and totally control. And she loved doing it. And of course, I was this little girl. Oh, can't speak, can't do anything. And it took a lot of pushing through. But I'm a strong soul, I can do it. That's the main thing.
Yes, you are. And it's interesting for listeners who have been, we've all been through programming of one kind or another. There's no way to escape the fact that you had programming of some kind. I know that there was a point where I stepped into a forgiveness, and it was kind of the idea that, you know, all right, mom and dad, you were doing the best you could with the info you had at the time, the upbringing you had, and the programming you had, you know, so that moment of forgiveness, but also when we take responsibility for moving forward in a different awareness and a different way, that's a game changer, right? Yeah. So Judithann, tell me about your amazing chapter. And you're muted, girl.
I didn't want any background noise, so I put myself on mute. Not that there is.
All good.
Thank you for having this space and for giving this opportunity to us. On chapter 20, my title is, I should know it, Dealing with the Fat, I Am Enough. In 2007, I moved to South Korea as a teacher, and I just struggled with self-image, and I had never had to do that before. So now I had to worry about what I ate, what I wore, how I acted, and what I look like. And I'd never, like in America, we don't say to somebody, we don't go up and say, wow, you're really fat. But in South Korea, they did. And it was considered kind to tell somebody the truth in this way because it came from a place of concern. So it was definitely cultural. And it was something I had to deal with every single day because my weight has always gone up and down throughout my life. And it's been a struggle, but it's my struggle. And to have it pointed out every day by every single person I met was really difficult. So suddenly I was examining what I was eating, and the food was very different. And where I was living, everything was very traditional. So it was a very traditional meal that I was eating every single day. And that took several months for my body to get used to. And then clothes, forget it. I couldn't find anything. It took about 7 months before I found a store up in the capital city of Seoul. That was a 12-hour ride up there, depending on how I got up there. So, you know, I had to look within myself and realize that I was okay. And I really built up a thick skin, which I did mention in the chapter. And, you know, it's not, it trained me, I should say, for later travel when I lived elsewhere. Of course, you don't know that at the time when it's happening. You just think, what is wrong with these people? So, and then you start to look within because enough people are telling you that you're fat and you think that you must be. And then it's going within your soul and looking at yourself and realizing that you're okay and everything's all right. You're here to do a job. You're really good at that job. And then having to work even harder to prove that I could do it well. So like the first day they said, oh, we're so disappointed because you're fat and fat people are lazy. And that's the whole idea. Maybe it's different now because that was a long time ago, but I had to work that much harder to prove that I was a good teacher. And that, changed very quickly, but they couldn't believe that somebody who was big, I think I was a size 16. It's actually, it's pretty, I don't know, I think it's okay. I'm still that same size. And, but they couldn't understand how I could walk and not have my ankles give out. Or, eat the food. They would give me more food than what I could actually eat. And you had to finish your food or it was incredibly rude. So that also was an adjustment. And then trying to say, no, you can give me the same portions as everybody else. It's okay. I'm not going to starve. So then, after a while, I did a lot of healing within myself. It made me look at the parts of myself that I hadn't wanted to look at, which was self-confidence and self-worth. And so when I finally looked within, I realized, no, I'm okay. And I accepted myself. It took almost a year for me to get to that point. And when I did, I realized, no, I mean, I'm a really good teacher. And this is my life's path, at least at the time. And I learned to be kind to myself. And I stopped worrying about what I was eating, what I was wearing. I knew how I was acting was professional. And once I let all of that go, I had this peace that settled over me. And I realized I could handle anything and that I was enough.
I squirmed through a lot of your chapter, and I had another author in a prior interview say something really great, and it was, don't be afraid to make people feel uncomfortable. Like, we need to have the conversations and write the stories and the chapters like you did. And y'all are giving gifts of awareness and your ability to tell your story like that. And Judithann, yours was one of those, was like all of yours were truly. But you guys know how, I mean, there's a lot of people in the world and you could hear something 10 times, but it's the 11th person who says the message and you finally, the light bulb goes off and you really get it because you listened to the 11th time, right? We all need so many different kinds of unique voices and stories sharing the messages. It's really one of the big missions for this book, is to bring in all of your voices about these topics. So again, I'm just thanking you all for doing that. So Judithann, I want to stick with you for this next question. I'm going to get around to all of you with this. Sharing that voice, and honestly, whether it's in a private conversation with a loved one or publishing words in a book, like in anywhere in between on the spectrum, that takes courage. And I want to know from you why being brave about sharing your voice has been important.
It's, goodness, that's such a broad question. I'm not sure how to answer that.
Did you have to feel brave to do that?
I've had a lot of people over the years tell me that I was brave to leave the country and to go over and teach and live somewhere else. And I knew in my heart that it was something that I was meant to do, something that I had to do. It was part of my divine path without actually realizing what that was at the time, because I was pretty young. And while I was over there, I leaned on my divine support for help. I was just starting to open up with re-accept my divine gifts and be okay with them. And I just realized this is something that I had to share because there's so many people out there that are constantly dealing with self-image. We see it everywhere. And I learned after living in multiple countries that it exists in every single culture. And so it was something that had to be written and had to be said so that other people, not just women, but also men and other, other people who identify differently, can know that there's somebody else out there that gets them and that sees what they're going through and or have went through, because our words are like a survival guide for the next person. And they offer hope and inspiration that they're not alone and that they are okay too. And they just need to remember to be kind to themselves and to know that no matter what, they're always enough.
Amen to all of that. Yes. So sometimes it's that feeling of urgency inside and the feeling that it's not about me anymore. It's really about who I can help. So if I can look toward that, it's maybe not so much the courage. It's just, that's part of this conversation. Thank you, Judithann.
Thank you.
Lisa, what do you want to add to that piece about the courage? How did that play out for you in terms of sharing your voice?
Yeah, it's really at the core and at the root of it all in so many ways. So it really coming into highest level service has required me to deconstruct a lot of fear around the authenticity of the gifts that live inside of me. So part of the programming and the conditioning growing up in this very religious household was that there's a component of the religion that is discommunicates. So to come out as a seer and as one that communes with other beings and other dimensions and through the veils, based on the religious programming and imprinting, that's really unacceptable. And so there was a lot of fear within, and there still is. I can feel it as I talk about it. I can still feel that, like, if they know, then they may never speak to me again. And so the next level of it really just happened in the last year or two, where through this massive change of consciousness that we're experiencing here on the planet, I had to come to a point where when I say that it doesn't matter, it does not mean that it does not matter. It means that I cannot live in fear of me being in my authentic expression and hold back what it is I'm here to do anymore. So at one point, at some point, at every point, I have to choose over and over again, even as I'm saying it here and now. If they see, if they know that it is okay, because this is what I'm here to do, and it's part of my healing, it's part of my karmic contracts that are dissolving, and it goes through lifetimes, right, of being the seers and being the persecuted for speaking the truth and seeing what we see. And I want to tag back a little bit to what Judith has said about the level of bravery and the level of self-worth. And really, in the 3 decades that I've been working with people in transformational work, it comes down over and over and over again to that core that I am enough, right? I am enough, I am enough. And I feel like to be brave in this, we have to get to this really fundamental belief system that I am enough no matter what occurs and no matter what we perceive or believe could or could not happen in response to our bravery and our courage and our willingness to stand in authenticity, to stand in our truth, and to stand in our gifts.
Yes, with an exclamation point. Yes, beautiful, foundational, really. Carol, what do you want to add to this chat about the courage it takes to share your voice, really to find it first and then share it?
I think for me, it's been, my soul has been determined to shine through and clear all the karma and push through all the programming, and understanding that the lessons of being silenced, being suppressed, seeming as if I'm being judged and put down has all been part of the journey. It's all been part of the lessons for me to clear the program, clear the soul, and then for my soul to expand upwards to be my divine self, and for all that to continually pour through and not care anymore what people think, just to do it. And that's a process. It takes a lot of work, as Lisa was just saying. It's a long process, and it's different for all of us because that depends on our karma. It depends how much we've got to clear and how much programming we continue to accumulate when we're here. But courage and bravery are all part of it. It's just about being great. And for me, it's been putting myself in very awkward, difficult situations in front of difficult audiences that didn't want to listen to me, that were looking out of the window smoking, that walked across my yoga mats in stiletto heels, all sorts of disrespectful things that I've put up with over the years. I just carried on and held the light and did my job. And eventually it gets easier and easier and easier and easier until it just doesn't matter anymore. But we do the beautiful work. The sun doesn't stop shining because we don't look at it. Jesus Christ doesn't stop blessing us because we don't connect with him, because we'd rather connect with Buddha. They just keep doing it. They don't care if we're noticing or not. Same with us, we do our work. And that's courage. That's how it accumulates and how it manifests.
You are so right. And we just keep doing our beautiful work. I love that. I want to stick with you, Carol, for this next question. I'm going to get around to all of you with this one. Okay. So, you know, as you listeners can tell, the storytelling is a form of powerful healing. And there's healing in this for us as the teller, the writer, the speaker, and there's healing in moments for the receiver when they're infused with the energy and resonating with the message, and they're being given permission to tell their own story and live their own amazing life. What a gift, right? So even in the form of journaling, I believe that we need to move that energy. We need to move those stories out of us, be our own witness in the form of journaling is how I started. And Carol, what I want to know is, what would you say to our listeners to encourage them about sharing their stories?
Take a deep breath. Connect with nature, connect with the sun, and then go deep inside and connect with yourself. And as you do that, you will find your truth starts to flow. And to begin with, don't necessarily think about sharing it with anyone but your pen and your page, or your keyboard and your screen. And then later on think, okay, who can I share it with first? And it might just be one person really, it might even be your cat or your dog that you start with, the one that won't judge you. Then move on to the person that you feel most comfortable with. And just let it gradually expand and grow organically. Don't pressure yourself to share. Let it happen naturally. I think that's so important. No pressure.
My dogs love my stories. They always look at me so attentively too, right? They're such great listeners. No, I'm joking, and I'm kind of not, because sometimes we have to practice that way with absolutely no judgment to feel safe enough. And then a trusted friend comes next. And then like Carol on a stage in front of people and being able to do that, right? It is, what a journey that is. Thank you, Carol. Judithann, how do you want to talk about this in terms of encouraging women and really everybody to share their stories?
Oh, I love this question. And I've loved everybody's answers. It's been so inspiring. You know, I always tell people that if the story is within you, it starts to come out when you're sharing, you know, bits of your life with others. And then when people say, you know, you should write that down, or you should write about that, or you should write a book, there's a story there. Now, not everybody does it for various reasons, but when they're ready, you know, like what Carol said, share it with your pen and paper first, and then find somebody that you're comfortable sharing it with. And when I teach my classes, you know, it's very important to set like a safe environment so people can feel comfortable enough sharing what they have. And the biggest thing I tell people is never apologize for your story. Never apologize, especially if you're going to be sharing it with other people or reading it out loud, because it's your story and it's your life, and you know what happens. And we're here to support you and to make you better, so you can get your story in front of people. So that's, really important to me, because we all know how validating it is when someone says, oh my gosh, I understand, I can relate to that. And I've never met a story or a person who was not relatable in some way. And that's our biggest fear when we're sharing our experiences, is that people will not understand, or they will not understand us. But just like we've been saying, there's always someone out there who resonates and who we resonate with. And, so when that story is there, it comes to a point that if you ignore it, it's going to bubble up and explode. And I know, because I've been there. So that is when you are ready to tell your story, if not before. And it's really important to get the words out there, because they will always change somebody's life.
So about that bubbling up, I had a coach say to me once, hey, it would be good that you smelled the smoke before your house burns down. And really it was, can you feel the sensations inside you of that bubbling up at the whisper phase before it becomes something that, you're having to put out a fire, literally a health issue in your body. And for me, it was chest tightness. And there were moments where I'd think, oh my gosh, I'm going to end up having a heart attack, leaving my kids motherless if I don't listen to, I call it the language of my soul, with those things bubbling up, those stories, those words that need to be spoken. And even just for all of you listeners who will never write a book, journal it out of you. Move the energy, shift, right? You become your own witness, and it's so very powerful. This is something I could talk about all day long. So thanks, Judith. I want to hear what Lisa has to say about this. So Lisa, what do you think? What would you say to encourage others about sharing their stories?
Yeah, I think it's such a cathartic part of the process of healing. And I think there's also, or feel that there's also so much power in being witnessed. And I think that's part of what gets kind of missed a lot, or what's maybe coming more online in society right now, is that, we all have a story to tell, because we all have these rich, abundant opportunities in our life, some painful and some exquisite. And the more we're willing to move through that process to come to our own healing, I find that when we're going through the journey of where we kind of disappeared, is what I like to call it, or where our pain body has gotten the loudest, the initial part of that story usually involves most of the pain. But as we tell it, and as we move through it, and as we begin to deconstruct it, it gets to the other side, which is where the pain becomes the glory, or the pain becomes the initiation for something greater. And so, living it and writing it and speaking it, it's like, the more we tell the story, I feel the more we move beyond the pain point and get to what the purpose of the pain, right? Because it all has purpose. And my suggestion, we all well, not everyone, but there was a lot of journaling in the younger years. And for me, it turned into a lot of speaking. I would speak my story, and I think it's really important to find someone who's willing to observe, to listen, to hold space, without even needing to give any kind of advice at all, but to be really witnessed. And for many, that's not really easily accessible within community. So the writing piece becomes the dump that then can be shared and witnessed. And I just think the power of being witnessed is what transforms this planet. And so whatever form it takes, but at some point it almost takes all that pain, and when we dump it onto the pages, we also have the power to kind of just take those pages and, part of the healing process for me has been to burn those pages sometimes. And then to come back and write the story anew, that has the beginning, that has the middle, that has the healing, and that has the other side, which takes us to the light. And whatever we have lived, we have not lived it alone. And the more willing we are to share those stories, not just for the cathartic expression of our own healing, but that so that someone else might heal in the depths of the words that have been for me. Like, the more we allow that to be out into the world, I think the more we're encouraging and enabling others to find their way home to their greatest healing as well. So it's a service act, really. It's a self-healing and a service act. So just do it.
So I'm going to move around to all of you with this last question. And Lisa, I'm going to stick with you to start this one off. Okay. So we could each talk for at least 3 more hours or more about this topic. So I know you guys are going to be like, really, Laura? But that self-nourishment, I mean, all of the good things come from when you prioritize your own healing so that you can serve from the overflows, is one of my beliefs. And the more that we do that well, the more energy we have to do the serving that you're talking about. So can you give me just one simple idea of your personal practice of nourishing yourself? What's your favorite way to fill yourself up?
It's such a good question, especially right now. I'm just coming off of a massive life transition, like one of the biggest of my entire life. And one of my favorite ways to fill myself up is to get really quiet, to quiet the noise. It helps to get to nature, to get out of kind of the buzz of electronics, of people, of too much stimulation, and to listen deeply to my own heart, to remember and to listen deeply, to get quiet. And from that point, and only from that point, am I then able to connect into nature, into spirit, into the universe, to really get the messages and the direction for what is the next step. So it's to get quiet. And then that will then say, oh, I really need a massage, or, oh, I could really take I need a bath, or I need more water, but I have to get quiet to listen to the subtleties that are being asked to be experienced through me.
Thank you for that. I know that we all resonate with that, right? So, of course, Carol, I'm going to ask you next. I know that one of your superpowers is connecting with that stillness. What's, beyond that, what would be another favorite way that you fill yourself up?
Well, always practicing the infinite Tai Chi form, because that is pure meditation in motion. I do my yoga, I do the Qigong, and they have different treasures in each. But the infinite Tai Chi form is beautiful. It's one of the most spiritual movements on the planet. And it takes us through the levels of being grounded and being opening through our layers until we have no body. We simply move with the universe and align fully and beautifully. And that is such a treasure. So that's always the first thing that I would do. But I do it every day anyway. But sometimes maybe I need to do it more than once. But yeah, definitely. And meditation, of course, and aligning with truth. But that comes with my practice as well. That happens all the time.
What I want you to hear as these beautiful ladies are talking about their own practices, I think you guys can feel, I'm listening to Lisa, I'm listening to Carol, and I can literally feel the peace and that centered and groundedness. There's a solidity in that foundation that they create for themselves every single day, from which then you can serve. And it's so important, if y'all are feeling burned out or at the other end of the spectrum of what we're talking about right now, to find one simple thing that can have you enter or move toward what we are talking about. So Judithann, you're going to close us out today. What is your favorite thing to nourish yourself?
I also go quiet, and I typically hold a stone like I am today. This is a rather large stone, but I'm holding this.
Oh, look at that.
And so I hold it and I just allow myself to connect with the stone. And I always feel the energy of it. And it's such a beautiful, powerful energy. And the best way to feel it is to just let the mind go and breathe. I do a lot of breath work. And I enjoy the energy of the crystals that I'm holding, which I also use for meditation. And then when I'm done, I typically go to either writing or I read. And I find it really important to read a physical book, not anything electronic, nothing that connects to the internet, and, just read and then write and write with abandon. So that means imperfection. So I can get the ideas down, have my run on sentences, not use any punctuation, and then pull out the ideas that I'd like to use in a piece later on. So that's pretty much the steps that I take for myself. And I do that all the time. I mean, multiple times a day.
You made me want to pick up my purple crystals too. Like, okay, I got these, and they feel different in each of my hands. And I love, just rubbing the thumb over the different little crevices. And thank you for making me want to do that. I think I'll add today music and the walks in the woods. Those are my two favorite. And I'll use different ways in different moments, depending on how I feel. I know these ladies probably do the same thing. There's so many ways to nourish yourself, and it really depends on the moment, the mood, the kind of shift you're looking for. So music is one of my biggest ways to shift my energy and fill myself back up and clear the day's energy if I need to. But the walks in the woods are, again, another way to do it. Ladies, thank you so much. Thank you for what you do in the world and for being here today to share it with everybody.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you so much.
Listeners, please join us on the Brave Healer Productions Facebook page on August 3rd, 10 a.m. Eastern, when we're going to have a book launch party celebration with all of our authors. We're going to have some cool giveaways, and the authors will be there to inspire you to find your voice. You're going to find Carol and Lisa and Judithann's information right down there, just maybe an inch or so into those show notes. Give it a scroll, take a step into their world, explore. They are up to so much awesomeness, you guys. And of course, if you're listening after August 3rd, well, that means you got to get over to Amazon because the book is ready for you, and you can grab your copy of Find Your Voice, Save Your Life 2. Lastly, today, remember, you were born, so you are worthy. Your message matters. What if the thing you're still a little afraid to share is exactly what someone needs to hear to change or even save their life? It's time to be brave. See you next time, everyone. Thank you, ladies.
Bye for now.